All right, so back with the Camaro project. I just wanted to make a few quick updates at the beginning of the video, and then tonight I plan on doing like a bunch of work, so I'll just like update as I do it. But I did a few things. I had a buddy of mine do some fabrication work for me. Nothing too crazy, but I'll show that off real quick. So this is cold side. It's kind of mocked up. It's not official, obviously. Got to put a lot of stuff back on, but I had the blow-off valve bung welded onto this straight piece here. So that's in. This can be clocked either like any way because I got to fit the water pump back in here. So this is just mocked up to make sure it would fit. So going from the cold side of the turbo straight to the blow-off valve. That way it vents off hot air, doesn't heat soak the intercooler. We'll go into the intercooler. It'll come up here. This has a bung for intake air temp, and then down here I have sort of a custom little manifold here using those pieces I talked about previously. This wastegate is mounted here. It looks like the lowest part of the car is definitely going to be that exhaust pipe there. This is maybe a close second. My hope is because it's so far on the front, as far as like hitting bumps and stuff, it shouldn't be as affected. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll just see how it goes, But that's the setup for right now. So other things that I need to do, the oiling system for the turbo. So the feed is easy. I have all of the hoses and everything for that, but I gotta make them. It's gonna go off the block. It's gonna, come up here in between the block and the header up to the feed. Now, I was hoping I wouldn't have to use any sort of a scavenging pump for the oil. Just looking at it based on if the car was level, there's just no way that this oil is gonna drain back to there properly. So I have a gear pump I got off of Amazon. Got some AN lines here, so it's gonna be 10 AN. This is sort of gonna have to be mounted, I don't know, something like that. I'm gonna have to heat wrap this like crazy to try to protect this. Hopefully that'll work out. So 10 AN will go straight over. Scavenge pump will shoot it right back there into that fitting. So we will find out if that works. I'm going to try to run it without a reservoir or anything. We'll see how it goes. Maybe it's possible to run it without, but I already bought it. It was cheap. A lot of people said it worked perfectly fine, so we'll see about that. So the next things, which is probably one of the main things we're going to work on, is probably the oiling and then the fuel, just because it's a lot of lines I got to make. So pretty much redoing all of the fuel lines. And the reason why is I took apart some of the fuel lines that were in the car, and they're not PTFE. So they're not going to work for like E85. And since this is the lighting's really bad. Because this is like a completely stock motor, no gapped rings, no nothing, I pretty much absolutely need to run it, in my opinion. So I picked up an eBay surge tank. I don't know if you guys have seen this. If you're like into the whole sloppy mechanics page and all that kind of stuff, you've probably seen this. I'll show that real quick. Pull it out right here. I got all kinds of parts and junk on this bench here. So this right here is the surge tank. So it has, this is a dual pump. So it has two outlets that I'm going to Y together. So they'll come out, Y together, and then it's going to be 8 AN coming out. And then Y together, go to the front of the car. So that'll be the sending. There's an 8 AN return from the front of the car, so going to the fuel pressure regulator. And then I have there's a sending here, or like a supply and a return. Now that's like, you use the stock pump that's in the tank. It's going to fill this up constantly. So it's just going to run And when this thing's full, when it's overflowing, it's just going to send it back into the tank. Pretty much from the car's tank, it's going to think like, oh, it's just like normal return style fuel system. So we'll have this. I believe this is like something like 2.3, 2.6 liters. It depends on if you have like the pumps in it or not. I'm pretty sure it's like 2.3 with both pumps in it. This comes with 2 pumps that they say are like 450 liter equivalent. They're Chinese. They might not flow that, but they are like the same, how do you say, like format. So let's say I want to put really good pumps in it. I can put them in this and then it should be no problem. Now it has, you can see your terminals on the top to activate the pumps. I tried to research to see what I could do as far as electronics on the fuel system. And I think I got it figured out. And, you know, like I said, this is all supposed to be for as cheap as possible. So let me continue with this. This is probably going to be mounted in the back of the car here somewhere. I'm thinking down here, the reason why is I think the ice box I'm going to make, or water box, whatever you want to call it, for the intercooler, I'm going to have to mount up top here if it fits. I'll have to see. But reason why is if it's really low, I don't think it'll evacuate all the air in the system. And so that would be a pain. So it'd be better if I have it higher as long as it fits. But I also want to try to figure out, which I honestly, you know, like I've mentioned before, I don't know much about these cars stock. I want to figure out a way to mount the T-tops in the car. So I'll have to see. I don't know what the stock brackets look like. The stock brackets aren't in this car, so I don't know, but I'll have to look into that before mounting. So it's going to go in the bottom of this trunk here, down there. Now, this sending and return from the tank needs to be obviously PTFE, so I'm replacing that with 6AN. There's 6AN on there. That shouldn't be a problem because it doesn't have to flow as much. So it's going to be 6AN from the tank to the surge tank back here. Surge tank to the front of the car and back. I do believe the fuel pressure regulator in the car should work. It should be able to be boost reference, so we'll use that. It's all of the fuel lines and stuff I have are Evil Energy brand, which is obviously cheap. I've heard good, but also bad things, so we'll see. It honestly wasn't cheap. You could do this way cheaper if you were trying to be as cheap as you could be, you know. You'd be better off if the car had stock fuel lines, because in that case, I could have the surge tank in the engine bay and run stock fuel lines pretty much just to this, and then I would only have to run PTFE line from this surge tank to the fuel pressure regulator and the rail. Because I don't have stock lines in this car, it pretty much set me back a decent amount of money. Still trying to do it cheap. I do know people said that you can do this cheaper, you know, if you go on eBay and order, you know, in bulk and things like that. But there's a lot of unknowns with that. A lot of people use this Evil Energy stuff, so that's why I bought this. But it's definitely not that cheap. I probably have $300 just in fuel lines and things like that. I guess only benefit is with the dual pump setup, you got a backup. So, you know, say one pump goes out, you can just hotwire the other one up. Car will be up and running. And then also with the surge tank, say I actually get this car running and it digs hard, it won't have any problems with fuel sloshing. Not that I don't know if these Fbodies have that problem, but it should not be a problem with the surge tank. So originally it was supposed to be a really cheap alternative, but maybe it would have been the same if I could have rigged up my own fuel pumps into the stock tank. But it is what it is. I already ordered the surge tank, then found out that the stock fuel lines, or not stock fuel lines, but the fuel lines that were in this were not PTFE. So it is what it is. I'll learn from it. We'll see what happens, you know. In this case, I'm pretty sure they do make surge tanks that have 3 pumps. So let's say I somehow, outdo this fuel system. I highly doubt that'll happen, but then I can upgrade. So let me think. I'm not sure there's anything else. Oh yeah, so as far as electronics now, like I'm used to fuel pump controllers such as like I think it's like the FC3. That's what I have in my 300. It's just pretty much like a metal block that has some fuses built into it. And it's kind of like to my understanding, it's probably like a mechanical switch of some kind that is activated with, 12 volts. So essentially a fancy relay. So what I did is I went on Amazon. Went on Amazon. I found 40 amp relay kits, and I found 2 of them because I got 2 pumps I need to wire up. So the stock one's already wired up to whatever wiring that this guy did. So that one will be activated with the fuel pump switch. When the fuel pump switch turns on, I'm going to tie into this wiring here, use it to activate a relay. The easy thing and the nice thing is that I have my battery back here, and then my switch power is right here. So when I switch it on, I'll have power going to the relays. When I turn the fuel pump on, 12 volts turn on the relay, and it'll start the primary pump. Now, I'll have power from the back of the car going to the secondary pumps relay, but it will be switched instead by a Hobbs switch, which will be at the front of the car on like the vacuum block, which I have picked up one of those too. I have parts everywhere, so honestly, I don't know where it's at. There's like a million things on the table in front of me, but I got a cheap like manifold for that I'm going to mount in the front. I'm going to try to do all I don't know what you call it, pneumatic line, like this kind of stuff, the plastic with the push ends. I like it, but I'm not sure I have all the fittings I need for it. So that is the plan. I know I'm yapping, but I just wanted to explain my plan for the fuel system, plan for the oiling system. If I get all of that done, I do think the car should be able to run. Now, for right now, only the primary pump in the surge tank is going to be wired up because I don't want to introduce any variables. I want the car to run okay on like maybe 6, maybe 7 pounds. Whatever, the wastegate spring is, I'll have to just see what it does. But run with boost, know it runs good, and then, transition it over to E85, hook up the Hobbs switch, have the secondary pump active, do all of those things. But that's far down the line. So I'm thinking for right now, it's just going to be like 93 on a single pump. And I think that's it. So I think the first thing I'll probably do is the oiling system, because that's something I could get done all in one night for sure. So I'll probably have to drain the oil just because the AN fitting that's in the pan is a little bit below the oil level, or it should be roughly at, or probably a little bit below, since that's where the sensor was. So I'm going to drain the oil, try to collect it so I can reuse it, because it has like minutes of time running on it, and put the 10 AN line on it, put it to the pump, do all that. So I'll outline all that. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to get to work. All right, so got the pumps in, filters on, wired them up, and plumbed them. And so this is going to go back on, and then I guess I'll try to figure out where it's going to go in the car. Quick rundown of what I've gotten done so far tonight, which I think I'm going to be done after this. So made a couple fuel lines. This is 6AN PTFE. Those will run from the tank to here. I sorted out the wiring. It's not done, but we have, these are 40 amp relays. So there's one here. I didn't want to just like drill and screw everything into the car, so I just put them on these bolts. So you see there's one on each side. Now the way I'm running this is the power is coming straight from my switch. So as soon as that's on, power to the relays. This one is for pump 1, so the primary pump. The trigger is going to come off of right up here. So when I turn on the fuel pump switch in the car, it will turn on that fuel pump and turn on this fuel pump. This one will have a wire, probably following the new fuel line I'm going to run, and it will go to the hob switch, which will be up in the engine bay on the vacuum manifold. Grounded to here. I'm probably going to switch this, but I'm just going to do it for now just to test it, because I'm not sure it's a good idea to use this was a ground that I don't know if it's stock or someone put on here, because there's like factory harness going to it, but I'm not sure this is adequate enough for both of these pumps and the relays. But I think with just the single pump, it'll be fine for now. So I'm just gonna leave that there just for testing. So there's that. I didn't run any other fuel line or anything. I went to the front, start on the oiling system for the turbo, which is about done. I made a huge mess under the car because I did not expect the port over here above the oil pump to actually pour out that much oil. So when I swapped out that fitting, it poured oil all over the ground, which you might be able to see down there. There's a bucket. So there's a 4AN fitting in that block. It is going to this line here, which I have mocked up here. This isn't final fit. This is from eBay, a turbo blanket. I'm hoping that will mitigate the heat. I might have to do something here because it's touching. I'm not really sure how hot this will get, but I'd imagine pretty hot. So I honestly don't know if like this being like a Chinese cheap turbo blanket's really going to help its case or not, you know. So this might need redone. I might have to extend this up maybe a little bit, maybe put like a sort of like maybe I could find like a spacer for AN fittings just to bump this up a little bit. So the feed has gone in, 10 AN down here, going to this Scavenge pump. Now you can see I did fiberglass header wrap. That actually came with the kit, so that was free. I just hose clamped it just because I didn't have any of those like metal zip ties. So my worry here, and I don't have it final fit, but this had like rubber feet on it. Took those off and I bolted through a factory hole similar to this hole here, but there's one back there. Bolted through that hole, and if I think this is where it's going to be, I'll just drill this hole, put a bolt here, call it a day. Now my worry is this pump going to get too hot being right here? There's maybe like 3 inches space between there. Hopefully not a problem. The only reason I'm hoping not is because I mean, yeah, we'll have the bumper up here, but it should have a good amount of draft pulling hot air from this area. So I'm hoping that it's not going to get, this thing isn't going to overheat. But we will find out. So that's there. I am still unsure whether I could have just ran it straight back, but we'll do this for now. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want it to back up and then, you know, blow smoke out the turbo. Although I could have made a line just going back there, tried it out, and if it didn't work, install this. But we'll just do this for now. If this thing ends up failing, maybe I will try that. I'll just order another 10 AN line and I'll make a long one. But I just don't think it's enough elevation from the turbo to that port, especially because that port is technically under the oil level. So what else? I think that's about it, to be honest with you. I will have to wire this up. Not sure how I'm gonna wire this. Maybe something, because I only really want this to run when the engine's running, but I don't want it on a switch, because if I forget, then, I mean, I guess I'll realize real quick when it's puffing smoke out the side of the car. But maybe if I can figure out a way to get it to only get power when the engine's actually running. So we'll figure that out. So that needs wired up. Turbo's final fit. I've snugged all the bolts. Still worried about this a little bit, but we'll see. I mean, when we put the car on the ground, we'll really be able to tell, and we can make tweaks then. But I think that is about it as far as the oiling system. You can see I got this line in. I do think this is like all the brake lines in this car were redone, so I might have to, I don't know, I don't really like how there's like a decent amount of force on this, just because this AN line comes right here and then it's kind of pushing on this. I don't want this to rub here and vibrate, so I might put this AN line under that brake line and then feed it through and then bolt it back on or snug it back onto this. I do need to do the 90 into there, but I definitely have to drain the oil for that one. That one will for sure leak a bunch of oil. So I'll have to drain the oil out, put that line on, put the oil back in. Other than that, I think for the most part, water pump, you know, alternator, all that stuff. I have to take out the fuel lines, which are back there, and there's it's like the PQY fuel pressure regulator. I'm probably going to relocate that into a better spot to where I can see it. And then 8AN sending and return, and then one going to the stock fuel rail. So that's the update. Probably going to leave it off there. And yeah, thanks.